Hello everyone. Today in our next podcast, video podcast edition of AdTech and Programmatic, we have today with us Mr. Arjit Sachdeva from VDO.AI. He's the co-founder of VDO.AI. And for your information, VDO.AI is an AdTech company who has got various programs for advertisers as well as the publishers. So if you want to monetize your publishing channel, or if you want to enhance your advertisement strategies and optimizations, you can contact video.ai. And welcome Arjit in this podcast. And
Thank you so much, Gashlay. Thanks for having me here.
And we will be discussing certain important questions in today's AdTech and programmatic advertising scenario, where we are seeing and we are daily seeing various changes happening in the AdTech field, especially after the advent of AI in a altogether new manner, especially after we have got a hang of what ChatGPT and Google Bard and all these things are all about. So we are more curious regarding how this is going to change our AdTech landscape in future. So we'll have certain questions from programmatic advertising. So we'll discuss that with you. So we'll start with the first question, where I would ask you. First question is that what is the most sought after platform for advertising in terms of viewability and conversions? And the most sought after platform here, I mean the most sought after publishing channel, which is being in demand by the advertisers in terms of the viewability and conversions happening on that particular channel of publishing.
Sure, got it. I think till date, the majority of the spends for any advertiser, they would go to either Facebook or Google. By Google, I mean it would either be AdWords or DV360. And I also feel that for branding specifically, where you're looking for viewability, the best channels are definitely Trade Desk or DV360 for that matter. But for specifically driving conversions, when you're talking about, let's say, leads or even e-commerce purchases, I've seen that platforms like AdWords, Facebook, or even TikTok, they convert really well. Um, TikTok is one platform which has really shot up in the last couple of years, and especially in the US market, it's a game changer in terms of driving conversion specifically. Viewability is something which most of the DSPs provide as a targeting feature by default. So viewability would not be a challenge, but if you talk about a brand safe and a highly converting channel, that would be Facebook and TikTok in my opinion.
Okay, these are the most sought
Yeah.
after platforms in terms of viewability. Okay, and the Instagram reels are also very much in trend nowadays. Okay,
Right.
generally, when we scroll through Instagram through the post, we waste up most of our time in watching various reels. So that is a
Right.
kind of very engaging kind of thing, which is currently in trend. I don't know how this trend will be there in the future, but as of now, I think the reels are the most engaging
Right.
video format.
Right. The short form video is definitely in trend right now. And
Right.
if you talk about specifically the creative, like which creative is trending the most, then it's no brainer. It's the reels only. Like the reel in a short amount of time, in a 10 or 15 second time, it gives you the entire description of the product, and then it's actually very I would say verbal. It communicates to you directly. It's more interactive. So the kind of e-commerce purchases that are driven through reels, it's amazing.
Yes, and the user's attention span is also reducing day by day. They are much
Right.
more, they are not having too much patience to go through, a very long video and all. They just want to know everything instantly. So,
Right.
in the shortest form possible, whatever you can present, that is, I think, that is the most optimized way of presenting anything. And
Right.
for our
Right.
viewers, I would like to add one more thing regarding VDO.AI is that they specialize in video ad formats, and they have recently given one new offering in form of Dexter, I think that is also AI-enabled video formats which can be offered by Dexter, and they have other video offerings for CTV and OTT, which are the new emerging channels of publishing, where people are flocking from DTH to CTV and OTTs, like OTTs and Netflix, Amazon, and all. This is something which the users are getting used to in last 2 or 3 years, especially after the onset of COVID-19 pandemic. So the things have totally changed in last 3 years. The DTH viewership has gone down, and OTT viewership has increased a lot. So they have offering Video.AI has offering in CTV and OTT also. So I think the value addition in terms of video ads is also increasing day by day, because we already have gotten used to the display ad formats, but video format is something which keeps the engagement going. And as far as
Right.
CTV and OTT is concerned, these are the channels where the engagement can be optimized at a level where the websites and apps cannot do what they cannot do. The CTV and OTT channels can do. So that is one thing where Video.AI is giving their services. So we will move to the next question. That is second question. And second question is, what steps you are taking to ensure brand safety and ad fraud for advertisers on any publishing platform?
Got it. So this is again one of the most important things when it comes to campaigns which are run for branding, where the KPIs are regarding either viewability or completion rate, because like you could achieve, let's say, a higher viewability on a brand on unsafe environment as well, but a brand safe environment is definitely the most imperative thing which is needed in these campaigns. Most of the brand safety is actually offered as a third party service through providers like IAS and Moat, and we use them in every campaign that we run. It's actually bundled inside the pricing that we have for the campaign, so we don't charge any additional fees for integrating IAS or Moat. It's by default integrated into our dashboard, and we rely on reports from these platforms upon which publishers are, let's say, not brand safe, and which publishers are leading to, let's say, other problems like maybe a higher frequency capping on their end or invalid traffic, etc. Apart from that, there are traditional techniques as well, like whitelisting or blacklisting publishers that we do. So so what happens is that you run a campaign on a open targeting, and then after a couple of days, you would figure out which websites are converting well for you, and you would also check whether they are brand safe as per the third party providers, and then you could simply whitelist them on the campaign and remove the rest of the websites. That's a technique that in fact, any campaign manager uses on a day-to-day basis. There are other techniques as well, like blocking unsafe keywords or brand unsafe keywords. So we typically have a huge keyword block list that we run whenever we are running any campaign. That also helps us in blocking content contextually, which is about maybe violence or pornography, etc. That's another way by which we are able to tackle it. And then on a weekly basis, we also run manual content verification checks, where we have a QA team who manually scan every URL, and then they also flag those which are basically brand unsafe. So these techniques are there which we rely on.
Okay, so you are taking you are leaving no stone unturned to ensure that the safety of the brand is intact when you are running any kind of campaign of certain
Right.
advertisers.
It's basically the most important thing in video campaigns, because in video, the KPIs are not directly related to purchase or leads. So it's very important to run it in the most brand efficient and brand safe way as possible.
And the services of IAS and Moat, these all services are already bundled in your offering to the advertisers which
Right.
you are getting. Okay, fine. So my third question to you will be how the viewability optimization is done on campaign level for advertisers, since viewability is one of the major ROI metric for the advertisers.
For it. Again, in all of the creators that we use, so there are two two or three different kinds of creatives. One is the standard image-based creatives that anyone would use. In those kind of creatives, we would have again a third-party pixel placed inside the creative itself, and we would get to know whether the creative is placed in a viewable environment or not. And then that's how we would be able to figure out the viewability portion on those creatives. In the creatives where we develop, we basically layer our own ad serving tech that we have built to generate the creatives like Dexter, for example, where the creative is inbuilt with our AI tools inside it. In that, we would track the viewability and a lot of other engagement metrics as well on our end. For example, if the user is typing something inside the creative, or if the user is expanding the creative, if the user is pressing a button inside the creative, we also generate heat maps of the creative. So based on all of these factors, we are able to detect whether the creative is viewable or not. But we also go a step further in ensuring that it is also engaged and not just viewable. Because as an example, if a TV ad is running in your bedroom and you're not watching the TV, then the ad is viewable, but you didn't really watch it, right? You just lost that impression. So viewability is alone not the only metric that would matter, but that's how we detect viewability at our end. And other techniques that we also apply is we would generate reports based on, let's say, publishers, based on devices, based on countries, even to the DMA level. And then whatever bifurcation of the data is giving lower viewability, we would optimize the campaign based on that. That's a traditional technique that any campaign manager would also apply. Is That's what we do at our end. But the difference is that these things are automated at our end. So whenever a campaign is plugged into our DSP, the viewability optimizations are all automated. It's done through the backend systems that we have built. So there's no manual intervention that we need to deliver viewability.
Generative AI in terms of Dexter and all, so that is also adding to your optimizations of viewability as well as the engagement, which is seen in the video ads.
Right, right.
So, so like through this question, we understand that the viewability and engagement both go hand in hand. It's not something like
Right.
the viewability is important, but engagement is also important, because unless and until the user is engaged, viewability also is of no use for that particular video.
Right, right. In fact, there are a lot of debates happening on viewability as a metric, how important it is. Because, like the example that I quoted, where if a TV ad is running in your bedroom and you're not watching it, it doesn't really matter, right? Even if it is viewable. And similarly, if an ad is or a banner ad is running on a website, it's viewable, but you're not really engaging with it. Again, viewability doesn't matter a lot. So to bridge the gap between viewability and the final action, we we in fact everyone in the industry is trying to introduce metrics that would measure engagement to some extent. For example, there's a metric called dwell time that would measure how much time are you spending on the creative, interacting with it. There's another metric called attention, which is trying to measure the attention span of the video ad, in which you're watching the video ad. What we have done is, whenever someone runs a campaign on CTV, we always layer our creative tech on top of the existing brand's creative, and our creative tech has a lot of engaging elements in it. So you would probably engage with the creative through, let's say, your TV remote. You can maybe vote on a poll running on inside the ad. You can read more about a particular product inside the ad by pressing your TV remote. You could scan the QR code and then take the entire experience to your mobile phone. And even on online video, we have built the shopping experience inside the video ad itself. So at the end of the day, uh, we are not saying that this would drive purchases, or this might lead to, let's say, an action being performed right there itself. But if the user is actually interacting with the creative, we're able to measure that, and we're able to say that, okay, out of these many impressions, these many users have actually engaged. So these are the users which you could do a lot of things with. You could retarget them. You could you could re-engage them using your CRM or things like that. So we're trying to bring engagement into platforms where engagement is not traditionally been there. Like linear television does not have engagement as a primary KPI, but we're trying to bring performance, like some element of performance, into devices like CD, OTT, and even online video, for that matter. So yeah, engagement is definitely required apart from viewability. Viewability alone would not help you achieve your KPIs for sure.
From a user's perspective, I am also like a regular viewer of OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon. I go and generally surf for the program which I intend to watch. I watch that, and like in between the ads generally come, and but I just skip the ads and go. But
Right.
there, I think there are 2 lakh viewers who are watching Mirzapur season 3
Yep.
at once, and out of 3 lakh users, the way you are trying to engage the users, out of 3 lakh users, if 3,000 users are going to that level where they are engaging with the ads and they are scanning the QR code or doing any kind of transaction via that ad. So, do you think that this trend will is like benefiting the
Yeah,
advertisers?
yeah. It's benefiting the advertisers at a massive level. In fact, we have a lot of case studies for brands both in India and the US where they actually saw a lot of for example, we ran a campaign for NBA where they were having a basketball match, and the goal was to drive people to actually subscribe to the event on their calendar. And they saw a lot of subscriptions to the event. Like people were basically adding the event to their calendar to remind them about the match that is scheduled to happen, for example. So there are a lot of case studies that we have seen which this has really worked in. Another important factor in creatives is DCO, which is personalizing the creative based upon the audience itself. So when you said that, let's say 200,000 users are watching Mirzapur, every user has a different profile, right? Even though every user is watching the same content, but they might be interested in football content and in maybe wrestling content, etc. So we are able to personalize the ad in real time based on various audience signals that we are able to extract, and every creative for every user is different. So, as an example, if you're watching Mirzapur sitting in the US and I'm watching sitting in India at the same time, it's daytime at your end, it's nighttime at your end. Then we would change the creative in real time based upon the day, the time of the day that is there. There are other signals as well. Like if we know that you fall into a bucket of maybe sports and I fall into a bucket of maybe news, then the creative would be having, let's say, some element of sports inside it. I would have some element which is information inside it. So DCO is also another important thing that we do, and it definitely has a much better engagement rate than running a standard video, which is the same across all users.
So it is something which is like micromanagement of the audiences which you are doing currently. Like if
Hmm.
you are running a video campaign on a OTT platform, so you are micromanaging different segments of audiences and showing them the creative on the basis of the preferences of the users watching certain like programs on those
Right,
platforms.
right.
The advertisement has also come a long way since the scenario of only displaying banner ads and uh, measuring any metrics on the basis of only the impressions served.
Right,
So
right.
this is
Even in even taking that a step forward, there is another thing in targeting also that a couple of DSPs are trying out. That's called weather targeting. So, like you target by time of the day, you target by device, country. They're trying to target by weather also. So, let's say if
okay.
you want to sell an umbrella, you can target any region in the US which is raining right now. So that's also quite interesting that I saw that you can target by weather. Like what we are doing is we are personalizing the ad based on weather. So if let's say it's raining, then we could show the temperature as low in the creative itself. but a couple of DSPs have gone a step forward in which they're trying to target based on the weather itself. So quite interesting.
Yes, I think the horizons of advertising are increasing day by day. Like there is no limit to it.
Right.
We are seeing the changes, and like after discussing these kind of things with you, which I was also not aware of, and how this micromanagement of audiences is happening at your level. So this is something new, and this is something very interesting to know regarding the video ads. So
So
we'll move on to the next question and ask you the fourth question is the how is the relevance of the CDPs or the customer data and the DMPs and CRMs is going to increase after we enter in a world of without cookies and GIDs. So how the uses of this CDP, DMP and CRM is going to change and increase.
I think the when the cookies technically go away, again it means that the third party cookies are going away. The first party cookies are the same as it is. Like you operate your website, you control all the data on it. So uh, data management at the first step will be done by the publisher itself, where they would have to integrate a CDP on their website. It could be a sign in with Gmail or a login with mobile phone kind of a pop-up that they would have on their video platform or their desktop or mobile app, and that CDP would be important to get the user consent for the data, right? Not all users would provide consent for the data. Plus, it's also important to note that the control of data will basically be in the hands of the user. If they want to give it, they would allow the CDP to take it. Otherwise, they won't. So what I think is that publishers would need to have some degree of personalization inside their app or website so that users are actually finding it beneficial to give their give either their username or name or age or some information to the website itself so that they actually get some value out of it, and it's not just for selling advertising to them. So at the end of the day, the publisher would probably give some benefit to the user for logging in into the website. That would be the role of the CDP, basically to capture the user data after the user gives their consent. And then DMPs, like we all know the DMPs like Lodame or even Adobe has their own DMP. But these DMPs would still be relevant to manage all of the data. So let's say if I'm on a website and the user gives consent to the website to store the data would still need to be stored on a DMP, right? It can't be stored on the publisher's ad server, etc. Mostly because not everyone can ensure legal compliance. There are a lot of compliances like GDPR or CCPA that you need to ensure. So DMPs have all of those compliances in place. So it's better to store your data on DMPs. Plus, plus the benefit of DMPs is also that when let's say the entire landscape of publishers and apps are storing their data on the DMP get access to so much data points, so they can still apply their modeling, they can still apply their the categorization of audiences, bucket them, and offer those data segments into DSPs just like they do now. And I think the the match rate, like the conversion rate, by using these audiences would still be, in fact, it would probably be much better than using third-party cookies, because on third party you do not have the actual user data. You're just you maybe have, let's say, 60 to 70% accuracy of categorizing a user into some segment. But when you have the actual data from the user and you apply the same machine learning models onto the data buckets, I think the conversion rates would probably be better out of these segments. So DMPs are definitely a lot more important in that sense. And then when it comes to CRMs, CRMs are at the end where, let's say, you have the CDP, you capture all the data, then DMPs categorize that data, and then CRMs would be the tools which are needed to market, to run your promotional campaigns on that data, right? So CRMs would be, let's say, a single point access to Facebook, Google, TikTok, Taboola, etc., all of them integrated into one CRM, and that CRM has the DMPs integrated. So when you want to run a campaign on, let's say, a fashion audience, you would simply load the campaign onto your CRM, and the CRM will shoot that campaign across all the audiences that the DMP has built. And the DMP would also be expanding that audience. So let's say you have access to a pool of 1 million users, but the DMP has access to 100 million users, right? Because every publisher is storing the data on the DMP. So the DMP would basically help you expand that audience by layering it on Google, Facebook, TikTok, etc. So, so yeah, these tools will basically be much more important to counter the impact of cookies for publishers in terms of monetization, and even for advertisers in terms of delivering higher conversions. Um, and we are already seeing that like majority of the SSPs have their own like they're asking publishers to use CDP, or they're asking publishers to integrate certain cookie tags on their end, because the publisher needs to pass that information now. Whereas earlier the SSP could directly capture that information, but now the publisher needs to pass that information to the SSP. So yeah, these platforms are going to be important, but I think the impact of the cookie going away would diminish once these setups are more prevalent in the ecosystem.
So the importance of these platforms is only going to increase after we enter into the
Yeah,
cookies world,
right.
and the user consent will also be of importance, because generally, suppose IRCTC has like their platform, we generally user consent is not available for the data sharing, but for third party non personal identification data that is being used by the this DMPs and all, so that is still being shared, but that is a non
Okay.
personal data. But if we are going to share personal data, then that will require user consent from
Right.
the publisher side. So that is something where the publishers need to have a prior user consent for running any kind of advertisement on their side.
Right.
Because the CDPs and DMPs, as well as the CRMs, can only work when the user has consented to share their data on the platform, publisher's platform. That is one of the things where I think there is certain kind of uh, block, but like let's see how the things evolve in the future.
Right.
So we'll move on to the fifth question and ask you that what proactive steps are being taken by AdTech companies to enhance data safety and security while creating new ways of audience segment through CDPs.
Like just like you said, like they're trying to only capture the non-personally identifiable information. That is one thing that they're doing, and they mostly do it by hashing the data. So they would not like transfer the entire data while storing, or in fact, that is also an important thing that whenever there is a network transaction happening on the internet, on any web or app, you need to encrypt the data both on the client side as well, so that during the transfer also, if someone does a middle of the middle like an attack where they try to capture the network information, the packets, then also they might get access to the user information. So it's important that the encryption is done on the client side as well, like on the browser technically, and then the encryption should also be done wherever you're storing the data. So always have data encrypted in a good algorithm on your server. And then another thing that the steps that are being taken is around GDPR and CCPI compliance. GDPR, like there are a lot of third-party companies now, which are again like billion-dollar companies offering GDPR compliance tools on the website. Because even though it's not a very complicated guideline, but ensuring that it's followed very thoroughly is important. Like a single lawsuit by a single user on your website, like out of millions of users, a single user, if they have a lawsuit, then it results in uh, a very big loss, which would be bearable for a lot of publishers. So GDPR CCPA compliance is also very important, and thankfully there are tools like provided by companies like Google itself, which are compliant with these guidelines. So you don't really need to build your own tool which would be compliant in that sense. Another important technique that we also apply is real-time alerts. So we basically have like all our servers are monitored on a real-time basis, and then whenever we find that there are some logs or there appears to be a breach, etc., then we would receive a alert, and our team would manually go and check as well if there's a problem on the servers. That is also a more traditional approach that would be used by anyone in the AdTech ecosystem. I think these are the steps that I've seen most of the people are taking.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next question. And this is regarding the most important question, which is currently being asked by many people. Like, what is the most challenging thing that you are facing in programmatic advertising at present? What is the most important challenge?
Um, I think the thing that is currently also being talked about and people are trying to fix it as well is the complexity of the supply chain itself, where any publisher or app would be working with a lot of partners to sort of sell their inventory. But that also leads to a lot of complexity in the supply chain, which is like that's the fundamental reason why things like SPO were introduced and sellers.json was introduced. It was a mandate by DSPs like the trade desk, where if they're bidding for, let's say, $1, and then that dollar is transacted through multiple supply chains, it ends up having a lot of load on the DSP bidding server, right? And then they lose out on a lot of their margins. When you can buy inventory directly from the publisher, why buy it through multiple intermediaries in the middle? So the complex, again, it's solved to a lot of extent. It is definitely better than before, but still there is a lot of headroom that we can like fix in the supply chain itself. That's one challenge that I have seen in general, which ends up pushing up the prices basically for the advertiser, but the publisher doesn't really gain anything out of it because most of the pricing is actually captured by the intermediaries, which may not be adding value. If you're adding value in the supply chain, then nothing like it. But if you're not adding value, then that becomes a redundant CPM that you would capture. That is one of the challenges that I've seen. Another challenge that I've seen is attribution, because now when the number of online platforms has increased, so let's say you're sitting on Google search, you're sitting on Facebook, Twitter, etc. Now, if I'm running an ad on Google, and the ad is maybe for an e-commerce campaign, now you don't end up purchasing the product on Google, but you purchase it on Facebook or Twitter. Then how do we attribute the purchase, right? How do we attribute that the purchase happened through the ad that you saw on Google? Or even when the platforms are increasing in terms of CTV or DOH, so when you see a CTV ad or you see an ad on a billboard running through programmatic pipes, how do we again attribute that you liked the product and you went to the store and purchased it? In-store attribution is another thing, because if the outdoor scenario becomes digital, then people would ask for attribution, and the attribution usually in an outdoor scenario happens inside the store because you buy the product in a store. So tying up everything from a small ad that you see on your phone to the phone that you buy on the store, it's very difficult. So how do we attribute for that? And what is the degree of accuracy that we can achieve for that attribution? That's another challenge that I've seen in the ecosystem. Then brand safety is also another thing that I've seen, because the recent the recent news that I've been reading is about made for advertising kind of websites, where people are saying that our ads are running on MFA websites and it's not adding any value. Now, uh, while I can't say whether that is adding any value or not, but uh, ensuring that the content is actually running on a brand safe environment, that's of paramount importance, the especially if the video campaigns start increasing on platforms like CTV and DOH, where you can't have very granular control of where the content is running. So let's say there's a violent incident happening in Mirzapur, and a very beautiful or a child brand ad starts running in it. You can't really control it, right? So that's another challenge that I think is there in brand safety. It is solved to an extent, but I don't think it will ever be solved to an extent which is 100% bulletproof. These are some of the challenges that I think are there as most common.
Yeah. Especially like in terms of genres, which are increasing day by day in terms of viewership. So it is very difficult to manage the kind of viewership the advertiser wants to focus on.
Right.
So we'll move on to the next question, and we'll ask you that what steps you are taking to combat the ad demand drought for many publishing segments, since many advertisers are switching over to other publishing platforms also like CDP and DOH. We have our traditional channels of advertising like good website and apps. Even our website and app is also going through a demand drought currently. We have more than 20 crore monthly visitors, including website and app. But still, we are facing that shortage, and our ticket booking has increased from 8 lakh tickets per day to 16 lakh tickets, but still the
Wow.
demand is going down. So that is something very like shocking for us, and it was never seen before. So how like from an advertiser point of view, from an AdTech company point of view, how do you think how, because since last 8 months I am seeing a consistent drop in the ad revenues which we were generating, and now I think that nothing is easy. Like the publishing, the ad revenue through the traditional channels of publishing is not getting easy. And I have met the many other traditional news channel, this newspaper and news channel publishers like Z and NDTV as well as Indian Express. So they also expressed the same view that the ad revenues down by 30 to 40%. So, like on your side, how you are dealing with this?
Got it. I think like that's a larger question to address in terms of like why maybe a couple of publishers' revenue would be going down. But in general, like going back to the question about advertisers moving to CTV or DOH, which basically means other platforms which are not desktop, mobile, or in-app for that matter. We're doing a lot of things where, see, at the end of the day, change is going to be constant, and publishers would need to evolve. But we understand that as a partner for the publisher, like we don't blame them for their inventory going down or advertisers going away. What we do is we don't just focus on video monetization with them. We work as a collective effort to like build the best ecosystem that would be possible for them, even if it is beyond what they have currently. So, as an example, we work with publishers to extend their audience onto CTV and DOH as well. We have another um, offering that we have with a couple of publishers, which is called Audience Extension (AudX), where we would build their audiences and be able to retarget them across CTV and DOH devices, and then we are able to sell that as a complete package. So it's not going to be IRCTC web; it's going to be IRCTC web, CTV, DOH, everything as a bundle. And we are seeing a lot of interest from brands and agencies to buy into that bundle because they're getting access to the same audience. They're getting access to the same quality of inventory that they would get by, let's say, running an ad on maybe MX Player or the popular OTTs for that matter. And they're also getting it in a brand safe environment because we like our creative tech would basically be running inside the creative to ensure that it's engaging, it's viewable, etc. So we take care of that part as well. Another thing that we do is creative innovation. So if let's say we go to an advertiser and then we offer them a single like a static video or an image based creative, that's not going to work because they're already getting better things on OTTs. They would prefer to run the video on OTT. but we have done a lot of creative innovation on web and mobile as well, where we bring the entire shopping experience of the brand's catalog inside the creative itself. So they can, so a user, when they're watching a video ad on, let's say, IRCTC, they can choose which product to buy out of the Dell store or of the HP store inside the ad itself. They can read more about it, and they can even complete their purchase inside it. So these are some elements that we have brought, which supercharges the creative that is offered on the traditional publishing platforms also. Another thing that we do is better pricing. So at the end of the day, CTV and DOH is going to be expensive. It's not going to be cheap. So we are able to offer better pricing by bundling a lot of these devices for publishers. So for example, um, if you want to run an ad on MX Player for maybe $5 CPM, we would instead give you a bundle which includes, let's say, IRCTC audience on MX Player, on other OTTs at a price which would be lesser. Because at the end of the day, you're targeting the same user, right? You don't want the user to see the ad just on MX Player. You want the user to see the ad everywhere where they go. So why not bundle it and then sell it as a package? So these things have worked out well for us, and we are able to monetize both the online video space and the app space as effectively as CTV or DOH when it comes to ad campaigns.
So, like traditional publishers also need to diversify in order to the
Right.
changing demands of the advertisers. We already have one YouTube channel of IRCTC, and
Okay.
currently I don't think it is being monetized in that way, which you are saying or proposing. So that is something which like publisher like us can think about in the future in order to have different sources of advertising revenue from different channels, which we already have.
Right.
So we'll move on to the next question, and we'll ask you, uh, since you are directly witnessing the paradigm shift in advertising, how do you think the CTV and DOH advertising will span out in next 2 years, especially in a country like India?
Um, so I think the inventory in tier two and tier three markets in general will definitely need to grow from where it is right now, because I still see that CTV inventory is on the lower side when it comes to tier two and tier three markets. Like you would see, like if in terms of users I talk about, then majority of the US market is already on a connected device, on a large screen connected device. But I think India is still growing in that sense, and it would take a couple more years to reach the level of inventory reach to to have that amount of delivery for every CTV campaign. If you're talking about the large screen devices, another thing that I feel would happen is the concentration of inventory on couple of OTTs will decrease, because right now most of the inventory is either with, let's say, MX Player or Wood or Sony Live, etc. And similarly, if we talk about the US market, then Pluto or Philo, these platforms control majority of the inventory. But as more and more content creators come onto this space, as more and more publishers start creating content which is CTV friendly, and they also get access to tools which help them deploy or extend their channel distribution very easily, then I think the inventory would not be concentrated anymore. And it would be similar to how the web is today, because it's been a long time for the web space to have been developed from the .com bubble in 2000, right? Um, so what I think is, in the next couple of years, the CTV inventory will be decentralized. Anybody would be able to build a large or a leading CTV app, just like anybody can build a great website today. Then anybody would be able to build a great CTV app as well tomorrow. And then that's how the advertising focus will shift on audiences and not on specific OTTs, which is important as well. So that's what I think would happen. Um, Another thing that I think would happen in the next 2 years is better attribution, which I talked about. people would be people would basically be signed in using the same ID across all of the connected devices. Like for example, most of the connected devices are using Android at the end of the day. So if you're signing in with Google, you technically are connected across all of your devices. And then if you're purchasing something outside of the devices, then either you're signing in with Google on a website like maybe Amazon or Flipkart, or if you're buying something on offline in a store, they're also asking you for your email ID, right? So attribution is technically possible to some extent, but I think it will be much more efficient in the next couple of years. So advertisers would find it easier to attribute purchases on these mediums like CTV and DOH, which they can't do right now. Um, in DOH specifically, I think the mobile integration would see a great interest because if you're near a if you're near a DOH device, like if you're near a screen or a billboard, you have your mobile phone with you, then you can technically attribute the viewable impression to the user because your mobile phone is at least connected to the internet. So and if you're seeing the DOH ad, you're logged in again in the common ecosystem, then you would probably be attributed. So I think mobile integration would be much more prevalent in DOH specifically, and programmatic as well. Like DOH still is more sold directly as a extension of television, but when it becomes more common, I think it will be sold as an extension of digital in general. Then programmatic will take precedence where you would be finding any kind of ad running on a programmatic screen, which would be through an RDB exchange. And that's something which should happen in the next couple of years, is what I think.
Yes. DOH has, like, we generally see in India that DOH is generally much more visible on the airports, as well as in premium areas like Connaught Place and all. I have seen DOH screens, but
Right.
on railway stations, which like we have more than 7,000 railway stations all over India. So if
Hmm.
count only the premium stations, top 100 stations, there is a lot of scope for that. Even if
Right.
we install only one screen per station, so that will also give a kind of results, but that also needs an infrastructural setup from end. So only after that this advertising is possible for DOH platforms.
Right.
So, like, from your perspective, CTV as well as the DOH are like evolving currently in Indian landscape. And we will
Right.
see results in the coming 3 or 4 years in a much more
Right.
granular, which we are currently seeing.
Right. Right. There's a lot of scope for growth. I think we are just getting started, is what I think in India.
Right. So we'll move on to the next question, and next question is related to AI and machine learning. That how AI and machine learning is helping programmatic advertising segments.
Got it. I think it's everywhere now. Like without AI or machine learning, I think none of the things that we're talking about would be possible. And to quickly give you examples, I think real-time bidding, that's like the de facto thing which runs on AI and ML alone. So real-time bidding across a lot of DSPs is very different. Some of them have access to a lot of data. They're able to do much more with AI. For example, Facebook has access to first-party data, so their AI is like really good in that sense. Then other platforms like maybe Taboola, which have access to usually third-party data, they would have, let's say, lesser degree of AI in built in their platform just because of the data access that they have. But yeah, real-time bidding in general is driven through AI and ML in advertising. Then the DCO part, like the dynamic creative serving, which I was talking about, where the creative is personalized based on the user interest or the user audience segment. That's also driven through AI, where we're able to see the we're able to predict, what behavior is the user exhibiting, and then bucket them inside a segment, and then we're also able to create the creative. So creating something has been popularized by ChatGPT, even though it was there even before ChatGPT as well, but it has been more popularized by the ChatGPT tool that they've created, right? It's actually a tool built on OpenAI, but ChatGPT is something which a layman user can relate with. So it's basically helping us create content. Similarly, there are other variations of OpenAI like DALI or Midjourney, which are helping in creating the creative itself, like the image itself. So AI is more and more used in creating multiple variations of a creative, as an example. Another way in which it's used is mapping the customer journey, like the attribution itself. Because as I said, if I'm running an ad on Google, but the purchase is happening outside of the ad, like you just interacted with the ad, you maybe went on the website, but you didn't purchase. But maybe after 2 days, you purchased from the same website. So again, AI algorithms are able to attribute that purchase to the ad which ran 2 days ago. So attribution is totally driven by AI because it's very rare that the purchase would happen at the same time when you click on an ad. Usually, users do a lot of research. They would read reviews about the product, etc., and then they would purchase. So AI has a very important role in attribution as well. These are the areas which are some examples. Of course, I could go on and on, but these are something which come to my mind when I think about it right now.
So, one question I would like to ask you in this regard that, like generally you said that Facebook is using first party data and driving campaigns and all. So, does this also affect the CPMs which they get for running the advertisement for the publishers? Because generally I have seen that the CPMs which we generally get through Facebook ads is highest
Right, right,
among all the ad networks.
right. That is also because their conversion rates will also be the highest, right? If you're running a campaign, the advertiser is getting the highest ROI from Facebook because Facebook has like the highest level of quality data with them. So if advertisers are able to get ROI faster, they will be ready to pay a higher CPM. So they would be ready to buy 1,000 impressions at $5 because the amount of ROI is higher. So that is why Facebook would definitely be good in that sense. And if you haven't tried, then I would suggest you try Amazon as well. They would also deliver the same level of CPMs just because, again, Amazon has the first party data of purchasers, right? It's like the highest quality, valuable data. So platforms like Facebook, Amazon, they should definitely be on the higher end of the CPM just because of their uh, access to data, is what I think.
Which get really higher CPMs from Facebook, as well as
Right.
the revenue is also seen. So we'll come to the last question of this podcast, and last question is regarding the segments which are like frequency capping, sequential retargeting, ad engagement tracking, ad scheduling has a lot of scope for improvement in future. So what's your take upon it?
Uh, yeah. So if I talk about, let's say, frequency capping, um, again, if we go back to the example of running the same ad on multiple platforms like Facebook, AdWords, etc., you usually tend to apply frequency capping on every platform individually, right? But if you think from the perspective of a user, the user is using Facebook, the user is reading news on a website, the user is booking tickets on IRCTC, then the user is also playing games on a mobile app. Now, everywhere the ad is running through a different platform. Like on Facebook, the ad is running through Facebook. On IRCTC, the ad is running either through maybe a programmatic platform, etc. So, from a user perspective, the frequency capping is not happening, right? The capping is happening from the perspective of Facebook. Like Facebook is ensuring that you see the ad only once on Facebook on a particular day, but as a user, you end up seeing the same ad on Facebook, on in the Sun Times, on IRCTC, etc. Because frequency capping is not that effective when it comes to cross-platform uh, setting. So frequency capping has a lot of scope to be improved. It will also end up saving a lot of ad dollars for the advertisers because you essentially want to do frequency capping the way that I was describing. Like you want to show the ad to the user across the internet in a particular day on based on the frequency that you set, but that is theoretically not happening as of now. So that should definitely be something which would be improved. Then if I come to the other thing that you mentioned, I think it was about retargeting. Um,
Yes.
Again, in retargeting, a particular case in point would be um, when to start retargeting. Like for example, if you see the ad for the first time, you simply get to know, right? You get a feel about, let's say, what this bike is. You don't really get to know the features of the bike, etc. You just get to know, okay, this is a bike which is blue in color, it is running on the road, etc., and that's it. But uh, then I would want to show you, if let's say you engage with the ad, I would want to show you a couple of things more. Like I would want to show you the features of the bike as well, right? Now, how do I ensure that these things happen in sequence? That first you get exposed to the bike as a whole, then you get exposed to the feature of the bike, then you get exposed to the buy now button in the ad. So this controlling the sequence of these ads is definitely difficult. Like, you can't ensure that you will see these things in the same sequence that we are discussing. So that is why retargeting, while it is effective, but it's difficult to control the sequence of the retargeting ads. And every retargeting sequence will have a different perspective of the product being displayed. You can't have the same ad being shown in every retargeting. You would want to customize it based upon how many touch points has the user interacted with you. If the user has already seen, let's say, the speed of the bike, you don't want to show it to them again, right? They already know the speed of the bike. You want to show something else at the next time. So this is another area that you rightly mentioned has a lot of scope for improvement. Um, Another area I think that you were talking about is ad engagement, like the engagement tracking, basically. So yeah, that's also an extension of one of the points that we discussed, that we need to move beyond clicks. Because if let's say we drive thousands of clicks to a website, that doesn't really result in a purchase, right? The user might just have clicked the ad by mistake, or there may be clicks which are happening maybe through bots, or there might be the same user clicking on the ad multiple times. At the end, the CTR of the ad is not just the only metric that is important. The engagement with the ad, like how many times has the user gone to the website, what did they do on the website, how many dimensions of the ad have they tried to explore? Like, have they clicked on the browse button? Have they clicked on the explore button inside the ad, etc.? So engagement tracking, I think people still don't trust it as a factor or as a primary factor when they want to run a campaign. They still rely on CTR as the metric, but I think that will change sooner than later, because CTR is no longer the best metric to rely on. Is what I think.
Yes, I have also talked with our advertisers as well as the companies like Google, our Google account manager. So I was talking to them regarding what is the one of the major reasons why the ad revenue drop has happened. So they are saying that not only the publishing channels have increased, uh, the conversion model, the advertisement model has changed to conversion based campaigns.
Correct.
Like most of the campaigns are going on conversion rather than going on impression based or click based models.
Right.
This is like
Right.
more on conversions where more and more impressions are getting burned, but you are only getting paid when the actual conversion is happening through the advertisement.
Right. Right.
So
Right. That's true.
that is
I totally resonate with that.
yeah, that is something which we were not aware of like in the last 2 or 3 years, because we only cared about the impressions and all. So then they said that
Mm,
there is a different metric where the conversion based model is also calculated via impressions only when the publishers are getting paid on monthly basis.
right.
So that is something very interesting to know, and this is also challenging for a publisher challenge like us, because we are a kind of website where the user intent is to book the tickets. They are
Right.
not staying in it. So I don't know how
Mm,
much they will spend their time on the ads being shown, because generally the average spend time on our website is around 8 minutes. So
okay.
that is the maximum time which they spend over there, and they book the tickets and they move away, or they
But
search
this is
for any.
like the metrics that you're talking about are very lucrative, I would say, from a AdTech standpoint. I would definitely feel that the users on IRCTC would have a purchase intent. Like when the user is about to purchase, you can do a lot of things. You can upsell, you can cross sell, etc. So I think this could be a case in point where we could maybe look at how it's working right now and what changes could we propose, etc. But again, like if there are challenges, that's why companies like us would exist to solve those
Yeah,
challenges. So I think uh, it's not that the challenges will stop existing. It's just that solutions will keep on coming, and we would always be at the forefront of them. Is what I believe in.
right, right. I think we are done away with most of the questions regarding programmatic, and it was one of the most insightful sessions I had with a personality from AdTech field. And thank you very much for your time, like sharing your insights regarding all these topics of AdTech. And the users also will gain a lot from this podcast and the discussions we had. And thank you very much for your time and answering all the relevant questions very patiently. So thank you very
No problem,
much.
Kisle. Thanks a lot for organizing this, Kisle. And again, I wish you the best for the initiative that you're running. You're actually disseminating a lot of information which is not available very easily in the public domain, like programmatic, AdTech. These topics are uh, like not very easily available. So I think it's a great initiative that you're running, and I, I feel that the readers would or viewers would definitely benefit from your initiative. So thanks again for having me, and I wish you the best with what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks, Kisle. Okay.